Hello, it's What the Doodle here. If you've been working in software development, then it's highly likely your company is utilizing some form of the Agile methodology for your software development lifecycle, which is also known as SDLC. Now, let's rewind a little bit and look at the history and the genesis of the Agile methodology. We need to go back to the late 50s and early 70s, and back then software development was in its infancy. And hot off the heels of the major innovation around that time was the assembly line that revolutionized the manufacturing process. So, understandably, given that software was a completely new thing, there was this natural tendency to treat it just like any other product development process. And so the waterfall methodology was developed based around that assembly line concept. The waterfall methodology was highly structured and broken into distinct phases, where one phase would precede the next, much like an assembly line. Of course, this was always doomed to failure because the fundamental assumption was simply wrong. Software, unlike real things, is abstract, and so the properties between them are not equal. Fast forward to the early 90s, and there were numerous iterations to the waterfall methodology in order to improve it. But much like flogging a dead horse, nothing could really save it. In the 90s, a number of alternative and lightweight software development methodologies started to emerge as a response to the failures of the bloated and ineffective waterfall methodology. These alternative lightweight processes included things like rapid application development, also known as RAD, Scrum, Extreme Programming, aka XP, as well as Unified Process, also known as UP, and a few others as well. It was then in 2001 that 17 software developers met to discuss these lightweight methodologies, and they formed the Agile Alliance and published the Manifesto for Agile Software Development. We can read the original manifesto, and it is stated as follows. We are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others to do it. Through this work, we have come to value individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. That is, while there is value in the items on the right, we value items on the left more. Now, fast forward to now and compare and contrast these original values presented in the manifesto, and we can immediately see that rather than valuing the quote things on the left, ironically, businesses and companies have twisted things and have placed the value on the right. In other words, the modern form of Agile is actually horse manure and not true to its original conception. In a disturbing turn of events, the lightweight Agile methodology has been evolved, or perhaps more accurately, devolved back into the bloated and ineffective waterfall methodology. There has been so much confusion around what Agile is, we now have an entire industry of snake oil salesmen that brand themselves as quote-unquote Agile consultants, which is hilarious if you think about it. Imagine needing a how to breathe oxygen consultant to teach you how to breathe. So how have companies ended up here when, based on the Agile manifesto, it was pretty concise and crystal clear? Well, I have a theory. I suspect it boils down to the schism or the gap between the technical and the non-technical. Companies over time were forced to adopt technology in order to stay competitive in the market. This meant that the corporate culture wasn't based around technology. Rather, it was just another department that was bolted onto the organization. As such, non-technical management were placed in order to manage technical resources. This in turn meant that non-technical managers needed to control an alien process they simply could not understand. The oft-heard phrase is transparency. In not fully understanding this process, management simply resorted to what they have also known and understood, strict stepwise processes, i.e. the bad old waterfall method. Of course, that model is easily understood for non-technical minds, and when we have agile consultants who are commercially driven to sell tooling and certification, it was not then surprising that the model they sold was essentially a modified version of the waterfall with some tooling, and then they labeled it as quote-unquote agile. So okay, how can we fix this situation? Well, firstly, we need to call it out for what it is, which is essentially fake Agile or horse manure. And we need to simply refer back to the original Agile manifesto. Are you giving value to individuals and interactions? No? Then we need to stop focusing on tools and processes. Are you giving value to working software? No? Then we need to stop focusing on comprehensive documentation and start focusing on getting working software first. So are you giving value to the customer or user collaboration? No? Then we need to get rid of business analysts that simply add another layer of Chinese whispers and communicate with end users directly. Are we responding to changes? No? Then we need to stop planning on how to make changes and focus on actually making the changes. Maybe if we started focusing on the values on the left-hand side, perhaps we might be able to save the real Agile from the fake one. And that's it. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you on the next one.